For our project, we focused on the endangered pangolin populations within China. Pangolins are scaly nocturnal mammals known for their ability to roll into a ball when threatened. There are 8 different species of pangolins, 4 residing in Africa and 4 in Asia. For this presentation, we'll be looking at the Chinese pangolin species. The pangolin's diet primarily consists of ants, termites, and larvae, which they consume using their tongue that can stretch up to 28 inches. Pangolins reside across Asia and Africa in woodland and savanna ecosystems. The Chinese pangolins are native to southern China and adjacent nations. The Chinese pangolins have one main natural predator, the leopard. Their deadliest predators, however, are human poachers who have pushed them to the brink of extinction over the past century. According to the IUCN Red List, the Chinese pangolin is classified under the critically endangered category. The Chinese pangolin population has decreased by 94% in China and bordering regions from the 1960s to the 2000s. While unsure, the current estimate for their wild population is around 2,500 to 5,000. This has caused a shift in demand for the Suda pangolins in Africa.
The exotic fur trade poses a major threat to the pangolin species because their unique skin pattern as a result of their keratin plate armor makes them a desirable target for wealthy collectors, leading to poaching being the most prominent threat to their species over the last 100 years. Furthermore, recent agricultural development and urbanization has led to massive deforestation throughout Southeast Asia, displacing pangolin populations and threatening their food sources and habitats. Between 1990 and 2005, Southeast Asia lost 12.4% of its forest cover to agricultural land and urbanization. The diagram on the right depicts the global market for pangolin hides based on documented transactions from secondhand markets such as eBay and other sources. The red arrows on the map represent the global market for pangolin hide, with most arrows originating from their natural habitats of Southeast Asia and at Western Africa. The United States is by far the largest importer of pangolin hides, making up 85% of the global market. Trade within Africa is the second largest at approximately 14%, and the Asian markets make up the rest.
Despite anthropogenic activity being the primary threat to global biodiversity, climate change is estimated to account for as much as 54% of wildlife extinctions. China is the leading nation in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, which drive the relatively recent rises and fluctuations in climate. The detrimental coupling of anthropogenic activity and climate change has rendered the Chinese pangolin critically endangered. The ecological impacts of climate change have produced a decrease in the available habitat for the Chinese pangolin. Due to habitat loss, the distribution and range of the species is undergoing a decline enhanced by the aforementioned human activities. The population is projected to shift in favor of northern regions or those of greater elevation in response to climate change. This may also affect the species' access to food resources. Furthermore, climate change facilitates the spread of wildlife diseases which could infect the Chinese pangolin. The species will be subject to the increases in severe weather events that result from climate change as well. In China, the prevalence of flooding, tropical cyclones, droughts, and other natural hazards depicted in the model is on the rise.
One of the main questions policymakers and wildlife protection agencies have to ask is why the problem is prevalent. We had the opportunity to obtain perspective from 2 of our peers, Xianbian Ne and Yuanimo Liu, who are both from China. Xianbian commented on the high worth of pangolins, stating that pangolin scales are so valuable in traditional Chinese medicine that they could be bought for nearly $2 each in the 1960s. Today, their scales are being sold for $600 per kilogram or 2.2 pounds. Pangolins have long been a part of ancient Chinese medicine. Their scales, fetuses, and blood supposedly hold magical medicinal powers. Their meat is also seen as a delicacy in China and Vietnam and several other countries. In 2020, however, Yanamo stated that when pangolins were listed as first-class endangerment, which is the same status as the giant panda, they were removed from the pharmacopoeia of the People's Republic of China. A major influence into why poachers begin poaching is not always out of greed. Many begin to risk their lives and imprisonment in order to supplement their income and provide for their families. According to the Borgen Project, a 2015 study in Tanzania found that 96% of villagers would stop poaching if they received enough income through a different manner. Furthermore, pushing the idea that poaching and poverty are often inseparable.
All 8 species of pangolins are protected under the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. When it comes to domestic policies, only 1 species of pangolin is protected under the United States' Endangered Species Act, which bans the imports and interstate sale of the species in the United States. 180 governments around the world agreed to put an end to the trade of pangolin in order to protect the species from extinction. In June 2020, China increased their protection measures for pangolins. The country no longer allows scales in traditional Chinese medicine either. When it comes to effectiveness, laws and restrictions have been proven effective for legal trade, but there's still a lot of work to be done towards illegal trade. And since the implementation of these laws, there's been an increase in seizures of pangolin products destined for China. Groups working in policy to save these pangolins include the World Wildlife Foundation, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, and the Zoological Society of London. What existing solutions are in practice today? We can start with initiating a change in the market. Governments can offer poachers different jobs and stress the worth in the lives of pangolins. The work of the Zoological Society of London has been effective due to their Pangolin Conservation Initiative, community-based conservation efforts in Nepal, protection in Central Africa, and development of conservation technologies. Lastly, the International Union for Conservation of Nature has a Survival Species Commission Pangolin Specialist Group that established a global action plan in 2014 to work towards pangolin conservation. This includes conservation research, identifying and protecting pangolin strongholds, policy recommendations, and demand.
Because there are incentives to protect pangolins regarding employment and some policies that prohibit pangolin trade, the solutions we propose are more on an individual level of what everyday people can participate in to support the conservation of the species. The first solution is to lower the consumption of products made from pangolins, such as medicines or clothing items, and to simply not support any business that sells these in order to lower the demand for such items. The second solution is to support campaigns that advocate for the conservation of pangolins. The idea behind this is to spread awareness on the endangerment and to bring more attention to the issue. Even though there are laws that are established to protect pangolins, it is not uncommon for illegal trade to still occur, which is why it is important to report any illegal activity for trafficking laws to be applied. Another solution is to familiarize yourself with policymakers and elect candidates that prioritize the conservation of endangered animals. At the end of the day, we are able to put specific people into positions of power, and they set certain laws and policies into place. So it is important to choose those who believe in the conservation of biodiversity if we want to tackle this issue. Lastly, working with impoverished communities will provide them with education and jobs to disincentivize poaching. Thank you.